Today's video is brought to you by Vanderstelt Studio and their new Aragorn and Arwen prints, debuting for sale next week at San Diego Comic-Con. It's an incredibly rare occurrence, a pairing of elf and man. The greatest of these are remembered as both heroic and romantic, while lesser-known examples are known for mystery and sorrow. Today on Nerd of the Rings, we cover the unions of men and elves. In Tolkien's world, elves and men are not all that physically dissimilar. Their differences come mostly in mind and mortality. While one race is bound to the world forever, the other was doomed to leave it after a much shorter time. As such, it was incredibly rare for elves and men to fall in love, and even more rare for them to marry. The first chronicled occurrence of man and elf falling in love is one of the lesser-known instances. Here we find Galadriel's brother, Aegnor, who falls in love with the mortal woman, Andreth. However, because elves by custom did not wed during times of war, their love would never result in marriage. In his heart, Aegnor wishes to take Andreth and flee far away from the wars against Morgoth, but doing so would be to forsake his kin. In one of Tolkien's most beautiful passages, Andreth has a conversation with Aegnor's brother, Finrod, where they talk of the divide between elves and men, about the sorrow of the situation, and the grief that would ultimately come from such a union. As fate would have it, Aegnor would die in the Battle of Sudden Flame in 455 of the First Age. That same year, Andreth would pass away at the age of 94. With her death, Andreth's spirit would go where only Iluvatar knows, unbound to the world as the spirits of the elves. During all his days, Aegnor would hold a love for Andreth, taking no bride among his people, and even in death, he would refuse to be re-embodied, choosing instead to remain in the halls of waiting until the very ending of the world. The next coupling of elves and men would be one of greater joy, though also of great sorrow. When the mortal man Beren comes to the elven realm of Doriath, out of great peril in evil lands in 464, he comes across an elf maiden of incredible beauty. But wandering in the summer in the woods of Neldoreth, he came upon Luthien, daughter of Thingol and Melian, at a time of evening under moonrise, as she danced upon the unfading grass in the glades beside Escalduin. Then all memory of his pain departed from him, and he fell into an enchantment. For Luthien was the most beautiful of all the children of Iluvatar. But she vanished from his sight, and he became dumb, as one that is bound under a spell, and he strayed long in the woods, wild and wary as a beast, seeking for her. In his heart he called her tinuviel, that signifies nightingale, daughter of twilight in the gray elven tongue, for he knew no other name for her. And he saw her afar as leaves in the winds of autumn, and in winter as a star upon a hill, but a chain was upon his limbs. After this spell of silence falls from Beren, he calls to her, crying tinuviel. Luthien halts, and as she looks upon him, her fate is sealed, and she loved him. Yet she slips from his arms as the day breaks, and Beren would lay on the ground in a swoon, as one slain by bliss and grief. But Luthien would come back, laying her hand in his, and from spring to summer, they would be joyful together. When their secret relationship is revealed, Luthien brings Beren to her father's court as if he were an honored guest. Thingol is hostile to the human, calling him baseborn and unhappy mortal. Thingol's reaction is not only an interesting contrast to his later arc, but also to the reactions of later fathers. For his part, Beren declares his love for Luthien. "My fate, O king, led me hither, through perils such as few even of the elves would dare. And here I have found what I sought not indeed, but finding I would possess forever. For it is above all gold and silver, and beyond all jewels, neither rock nor steel, nor the fires of Morgoth, nor all the powers of the elf kingdoms shall keep me from the treasure that I desire, for Luthien your daughter is the fairest of all the children of the world." In the end, Thingol would set Beren on a quest to steal a Silmaril from Morgoth's crown. With Luthien, he would succeed in doing so, though the Silmaril and Beren's hand is taken in the jaw of the great werewolf Carcharoth. When the pair returns to Doriath, Thingol's heart is changed toward the mortal, and it seemed to Thingol that this man was unlike all other mortal men, and among the great in Arda, and the love of Luthien a thing new and strange, and he perceived that their doom might not be withstood by any power of the world. Therefore at last he yielded his will, and Beren took the hand of Luthien before the throne of her father. Thus, in 466, Beren and Luthien become the first union of men and elves. That very year, Beren is killed as they hunt the werewolf Carcharoth. In her grief, Luthien lays down her life, and her spirit travels to the halls of Mandos. The song of Luthien before Mandos was the song most fair that ever in words was woven, and the song most sorrowful that ever the world shall hear. Unchanged, imperishable, it is sung still in Valinor beyond the hearing of the world, and listening the Valar are grieved. For Luthien wove two themes of words, of the sorrow of the Eldar and the grief of men, of the two kindreds that were made by Iluvatar to dwell in Arda, the kingdom of the earth amid the innumerable stars. And as she knelt before him, her tears fell upon his feet like rain upon the stones. And Mandos was moved to pity, who never before was so moved, nor has been since. The immovable doomsman of the Valar is moved by Luthien's lament, and sends her and Beren back to Middle-earth, where they would live out the remainder of their mortal days, living in relative peace among the green elves of Osiriand. They would later die in the year 503 of the First Age. But during the very years Beren and Luthien would spend living out their final days, two more notable elf-man relationships would form, one of triumph, the other of tragedy. In the year 490, Turin Turambar, the son of Hurin, arrives in Nargothrond, where he catches the eye of Finduilas, the daughter of King Orodreth. Finduilas, who had been betrothed to the elf Gwyndor before his captivity by Morgoth, falls in love with the great warrior of men. Turin, who has a capacity to be quite dense at times, does not notice her feelings toward him. It is Gwyndor himself who initially attempts to dissuade Finduilas. "Daughter of the house of Finarfin, let no grief lie between us, for though Morgoth has laid my life in ruin, you still I love. But go whither love leads you, for I am become unfit to wed you, and neither my prowess nor my counsel have any honor more." Then Finduilas wept. "Weep not yet," said Gwyndor, "but beware lest you have cause. Not fitting is it that the elder children of Iluvatar should wed the younger, nor is it wise, for they are brief and soon pass, to leave us in widowhood while the world lasts. Neither will fate suffer it, unless it be once or twice only, for some high cause of doom that we do not perceive. But this man is not Beren, even if he be both as fair and as brave. A doom lies on him, a dark doom. Enter not into it. And if you will, your love shall betray you to bitterness and death. For hearken to me, though he be indeed Agarwain, son of Umarth, his right name is Turin, son of Hurin, whom Morgoth holds in Angband, and has cursed all his kin. Doubt not the power of Morgoth Bauglir. Is it not written in me?" While Finduilas would hold a love for Turin, it would go unrequited. Turin would avoid the princess out of loyalty to Gwyndor. In the end, Turin would lead Nargothrond to ruin, and in the decisive battle for the realm in 495, King Orodreth is slain. Turin takes a mortally wounded Gwyndor away from the battlefield, and with his last words, Gwyndor would have Turin be saved from his fate through Finduilas. "And though I love thee, son of Hurin, yet I rue the day that I took thee from the orcs. But for thy prowess and thy pride, still I should have love and life, and Nagathron should yet stand a while. Now if thou love me, leave me. Haste thee to Nagathron and save Finduilas. And this last I say to thee, she alone stands between thee and thy doom. If thou fail her, it shall not fail to find thee. Farewell. However, Turin would be deceived by the dragon Glaurung, and would seek first his mother and sister in Dorlomin before attempting to find the trail of Finduilas' captors. He would be too late. Finduilas is already slain, and the doom of Turin would follow him to a tragic ending. The next romance between elves and men would be another resulting in marriage. After the man Tuor comes to Gondolin, he meets and falls in love with the king's daughter Idril. But unlike Thingol before him, Turgon embraced this union. Now came days when Tuor had dwelt among the Gondolthlim many years. Long had he known and cherished a love for the king's daughter, and now was his heart full of that love. Great love too had Idril for Tuor, and the strands of her fate were woven with his. Even from that day when she first gazed upon him, from a high window as he stood a wayworn suppliant before the palace of the king. Little cause had Turgon to withstand their love, for he saw in Tuor a kinsman of comfort and great hope. Thus was first wed a child of men with a daughter of Elfiness, nor was Tuor the last. Now it's worth noting this particular quote comes in the Book of Lost Tales, which clearly came prior to Tolkien setting the timeline that Beren and Luthien would actually be the first marriage of the two races, making Tuor and Idril the second. Tuor and Idril would have many happy days in Gondolin, and have a son together, Eärendil. However, like Beren and Luthien, there would be an elf who coveted the daughter of the king. After Maeglin betrays Gondolin to Morgoth, the realm would be consumed in ruin. In the chaos, Maeglin attempts to steal Idril and kill Eärendil. However, Tuor would stop the Dark Elf, throwing him from the precipice of the city. Tuor, Idril, and Eärendil would flee with the survivors to the mouths of Sirion. Finally, in 525 of the First Age, Tuor would build a ship, and with his beloved, sail into the west. And it is said that Tuor alone of mortal men was thereafter counted as an immortal elf by the Valar, meaning they would be the only such pairing to never be parted by mortality. As for Eärendil, he would meet and marry Elwing, the granddaughter of Beren and Luthien. Together, these two descendants of both elves and men would have twin sons, Elrond and Elros. And after Eärendil's brave deeds in the days to come, Manwë would state, "Now all those who have the blood of mortal men, in whatever part, great or small, are mortal, unless other doom be granted to them. But in this matter the power of doom is given to me. This is my decree. To Eärendil and to Elwing, and to their sons shall be given leave each to choose freely, under which kindred they shall be judged." This choice, given to Elrond and his brother, would play a great role in the life of his daughter. But first there would be another tale of a union of elves and men, one often forgotten, as it is not among the 3 marriages that surround great deeds. In The Return of the King, Legolas meets Prince Imrahil of Dol Amroth. At length they came to Prince Imrahil, and Legolas looked at him and bowed low, for he saw that here indeed was one who had elven blood in his veins. "Hail, Lord," he said. "It is long since the people of Nimrodel left the woodlands of Lorien, and yet still one may see that not all sailed from Amroth's haven west over water." This passing reference would remain a mystery for some 25 years, until Unfinished Tales was published in 1980. Here we find the tale of Gondorian nobleman Imrazor, who marries a sylvan elf named Mithralas, one of the companions of Nimrodel, who fled the lands of Lorien after the awakening of the Balrog in Moria. But when she had borne him a son, Galador, and a daughter, Gilmith, she slipped away by night, and he saw her no more. But though Mithriles was of the lesser Sylvan race, and not of the High Elves or the Grey, it was ever held that the house and kin of the lords of Dol Amroth was noble by blood as they were fair in face and mind. This tale has both a mysterious and sad ending, with Mithriles leaving to never be seen again. What their life together was like, or the circumstances around her disappearance, we can only guess. Yet there is one final known elf-man pairing, known as the third of these great love stories, the tale of Aragorn and Arwen. In this tale, we not only see similarities between the two and their ancestors Beren and Luthien, and Tuor and Idril, but also key differences in their story. Like Beren, Aragorn first meets Arwen in the woods, these outside Rivendell in 2951 of the Third Age. As the 20-year-old sings of Beren and Luthien's meeting, Arwen returns home from a long journey to her grandparents in Lorien. And behold, there Luthien walked before his eyes in Rivendell, clad in a mantle of silver and blue, fair as the twilight in Elvenhome. Her dark hair strayed in a sudden wind, and her brows were bound with gems like stars. For a moment, Aragorn gazed in silence, but fearing that she would pass away and never be seen again, he called to her, crying, "Tinuviel, Tinuviel," even as Beren had done in the elder days long ago. Arwen corrects him, saying that Luthien's name is not her own, and Aragorn, who had just learned of his true lineage as the heir of Elendil, feels insignificant compared to Arwen. Aragorn would go out on many long journeys from this moment. When he returns from these great deeds, he travels through Lorien, and there, Aragorn, now nearing 50 years old, meets Arwen once more. They wander together in Lorien for a season, and at midsummer 2980, upon the hill of Carin Emroth, they pledge themselves to one another. When Arwen's father discovers this, his reaction can be seen as a mixture of those of Thingol and Turgon. Elrond, who is also Aragorn's foster father, does not forbid the marriage, though he does set a task for Aragorn to win his daughter's hand, saying that Arwen shall not be the bride of any man less than king of both Gondor and Arnor. Thus, Aragorn must set himself on the path of taking his rightful place as heir of Elendil and seeing to the downfall of Sauron himself. While a seemingly hopeless task, Aragorn would take this path, Arwen's thoughts often on him. She would personally make the banner which Aragorn would unfurl on the fields of the Pelennor, signifying the return of the king. Fighting alongside Arwen's brothers, Aragorn would witness the downfall of the Dark Lord and the renewal of days. Thus, Aragorn and Arwen would marry on midsummer 3019. As king and queen of the reunited kingdom, they would rule for the next 122 years. During that time, they would have a son, Eldarion, and at least 2 daughters. Alas, the doom of man would come, and Aragorn would lay down his life rather than cling to it as in the dark days of Numenor of old. At age 210, he bids Arwen farewell, and she finally feels the bitterness of the mortality of her choice. Leaving her son and daughters, Arwen returns to Carin Emroth, laying down her mortal life in the land of her grandparents. And there is her green grave, until the world is changed, and all the days of her life are utterly forgotten by men that come after, and Elenor and Nymphadil bloom no more east of the sea. Like Beren and Luthien before them, Aragorn and Arwen would accept the gift of men, the gift of mortality. Their spirits, unbound to the world, go beyond its circles, onward to the fate known only to the One. If you'd like to commemorate one of the greatest love stories from Tolkien's world, check out the new art prints from Jerry Vanderstelt dedicated to Aragorn and Arwen. VandersteltStudio.com has all kinds of other great prints from Middle-earth and beyond, all officially licensed and absolutely stunning. And if you'll be at San Diego Comic-Con next week, be sure to visit Jerry's booth, where you can find this exclusive first release of the new Aragorn and Arwen prints. As always, I want to say a huge thank you to all my Patreon and YouTube supporters who make this channel possible. Tom de Bombadil 19, Lissamy the Cinda, Rabbi Rob Thomas, Charles Leisure, CCDC Red Team, Joe Tepper, The Mighty Mim, Andrew Carlisle, Swirled Traveler, Matthew Jeffrey, Viking Lord, Alvin Einbert, Jeremy Daniel Derby, Leo Vittori, Sky Carcass, Slide Belts, Dane Ragnarsson, Berto Berg, Graham Derricott, The Dark-Haired One, Wyland, Micah Wu, and Debbie. If you enjoyed the artwork in this video, check out the artists in the description to purchase prints of their great work for yourself. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on Nerd of the Rings.